Hey everyone.
I feel like we learned a heartfelt lesson today.
That lesson is by that thumbnail, it looks like you're ascending to heaven and I am not. We did learn a lesson. I thought it was us rescuing Denver, but truly it was Denver rescuing us.
See, the way you pitched it to me is not what the story exactly was.
It's what the trailer was.
Because, like, I hadn't heard of this until today, and you said it's about them adopting a black man, and so I assumed you meant literally. I was like,
no, I was.
What?
Okay, I remember. So I was being a smart ass there.
Okay,
like,
see, I just took it. Me too. I was thinking it was like the toy, the drama version.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, what? But what I found was, it is very white saviory, but I mean. Part of it is based on a true story, right? Because they were at the end they were talking about it. So I mean, like, I don't find that offensive. I do think that a lot of the liberties they took
I don't know
what's that way.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, there are a lot of things that are clearly like just movie bullshit.
Sure. There's a lot of this movie that feels like the most degrading shit I've seen since Radio. So I referenced it earlier. Okay, if you don't know this movie, like, it's called Same Kind of Different as Me, which, Brian and Sarah did a trailer review of this, like, 2 years ago, in front of, Ben-Hur, I think. So it was that long ago. It was in the 50s. No, like, when the remake came out a couple of years ago, Brian and Sarah did a trailer review.
It was a remake? What?
They remade Ben-Hur like 2 years ago.
Oh, that. I thought you meant this. I was like, what?
No. That was the movie they were at, and they reviewed this as the trailer in front of it. And then I got the trailer for it in front of something else, but I forgot about this movie until like 2 or 3 weeks ago when Dave and I got it in front of The Stray, probably. I don't know. But it was originally supposed to come out a couple of years ago, and then it sat on the shelf, and then distribution rights were picked up by, like, Pureflix, so it's got the Pureflix logo in front of it, even though it's not, like, produced by David A.R. White. It's not, like... It
still very much had that feel of a Pureflix movie.
I wouldn't say that, because it's not hateful or
they weren't hateful about it. Like the way it was shot very much reminded me of one of those, and that's very
true.
Unambitious.
Yeah, it's unambitiously shot. It ends with a country music song. So in that regard,
cardboard box in broken bottle. This, like when that started, I was like, wait, did they?
It's a movie that. Okay, it's Renee Zellweger and Greg Kinnear. This movie's full of actors who are so above this shit, it's not even funny. Yeah. But, like, they're a married couple, and they're wealthy as fuck. And they have problems in their marriage, like, he cheats on her, and then they start working at a homeless shelter, and they make friends with Jaimin Hunsu's character. And so this movie, it's one of those movies where you could argue that its heart is certainly in the right place, but it has such a fucking condescending ass air of superiority about it that is, like, unintentional, I'm sure, but it comes across like it's made for somebody who has non-ironically used the phrase, "Hey, I have a black friend."
Yeah, the worst parts for me were really when they were doing a lot of the homeless shelter stuff. Like, for instance, when they're working in the homeless shelter or the soup kitchen, and they are asking their names, and there's things like, "I'm killer," and like the lady who was I guess she was in an abusive relationship. She had like a shiner on her face, and then they're like, "We're gonna do makeovers for the ladies." So they're like, like that's super condescending when they like do the makeup and then like, look how pretty you are. Like she lives on the streets. This is not the priority. They act like she's never put makeup on in her life, and it's like, look, she didn't start out homeless.
No, it's one of those too where like when Jaemin Hunsu comes in just with a bat, breaking windows, talking and screaming like a caveman through like half of this movie. And he's like threatening people and flipping over tables and just bashing shit and bashing cars. Cuts over to Renee Zellweger like, I can fix him.
You even said that to me. You know, the most infuriating she was in the movie was when she fucking goes in to work there. And then the husband is like, hey, no, actually, I have to go to work. We can't stop and do this. I have to, like, do my job. And she's just like, here's the soap.
I know. I lean over to you.
Fuck you.
I leaned over to you, and I'm like, and then Greg Kinnear was fired because he didn't show up for his meetings.
When was it Denver that came up to him? Someone else who came up to him and says like, you know, one of these days when you miss some payments, you're gonna end up exactly like me and homeless, you know. And I'm like, yeah, after he gets fired because Renee Zellweger wouldn't let him do his job.
There's such bad shit about this movie because it'll have Jaemin Hunsu talking about really horrible, tragic things in his life. And he's homeless through this whole movie, and then he'll be talking to Renee Zellweger and Greg Kinnear about this in their mansion, and Renee Zellweger will then say something like, well, I gotta go wake up some teenagers. Now that's a real horror. And at the end of the movie, when Jaemin Hunsu is giving a speech at a funeral, again, he is still homeless. Through the whole movie he is, and he's giving a speech at a funeral at the end to all of these wealthy people, some of whom have treated him like shit through this movie. Like one guy earlier is like, I don't want your amigo Negro coming around here. And so he's given this speech in which Jaemin Hunsu says, truly aren't we all homeless? I'm like, no, you are. Everyone else in here is just fucking rich as shit. A rich person wrote this movie.
It was in sections because, first of all, this movie is 2 hours long.
It feels every minute of those 2 hours.
There's a part where once they start up like the cancer plot and stuff like that, where it doesn't feel that bad. Because they're not focusing on like the saviory condescending stuff. I mean, most of it's just a sad cancer story at that point. And like, but before that, the writing was so hackneyed and cliched and uninspired. Like they go to the soup kitchen.
I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah. And Greg Kinnear is like, you know, there's not like any diseases around here that I could catch, right?
Yeah.
Well, we try and infect them with love. Oh my god. Awful.
You know what my favorite part of this movie was? Okay, there's a part where, real quick, there was like 8 people in there, there was us, and then like a few 80-year-olds in there.
Like the annoying people behind us.
Okay, so my favorite part, and it has to do with that, was, throughout the movie, you're seeing a lot of Jaemin Hunsu's backstory, and he delivers his lines as if he's Uncle Remus with rage issues.
I was just thinking, the whole time I was thinking of Zippity Doodah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no,
It is so what he's doing here. And he'll be sitting there going, he'll sit there and say like, back so when I was a kid and I worked on the plantation, and then it flashes back and like there's like cotton picking and like a horse-drawn carriage, and for a second I was like, I swear if it turns out he's like a ghost of a dead slave or something like that. Like,
well, it's based on a true story. They wouldn't do that.
Oh well.
All right.
Hell, I've seen literal ghost horror movies that say based on a true story.
Well, I mean, they do claim Renee Zellweger had like a prophetic dream about the whole movie.
Exactly.
So.
She has a dream in which Jaimin Hunsu appears to her magically.
The man who will change the world, standing in a field.
And it's him as a homeless man in a field.
He did look like Uncle Remus, though, standing in a field.
Oh, he so did. And when he's saying these lines, like, they go to an art gallery, and Greg Kinnear's like, well, this is a Picasso. And he's like, who dat? And Greg Kinnear goes like, explains who Pablo Picasso is, and then Jaimin Hunsu's like, done look like he just messed up done woman's face and clumsily put back together. And before they go there, he says to Jaimin Hunsu, like, you want to go to a museum? And Jaimin Hunsu goes, I done don't know nothing about no mausoleum. Like, man, dude.
The whole movie, he comes off like he is a time traveler who has just appeared from the 1800s and has never heard of anything. Like, he doesn't know what anything is that you would come across in life. Bizarre.
Except for when, and again, this is...
What was the part that was funny you're talking about?
Oh my god. Okay, so... They're in this art gallery, in this museum where this art exhibit is going on. And they're having, like, a funny conversation back and forth. And then they go out into the lobby, and Jaimin Hunsu is laughing, and suddenly he looks over, and just serious face, and it pans over, and there's also an art Klan exhibit going on with this art of the Klansmen and this old lady sitting behind us when it panned over, and it was just Jaimin Hunsu upset, and then Klan picture, the old lady behind us. I just suddenly hear, oh dear. That was my favorite experience of this. It was, oh my god.
Her and her husband were hard of hearing, because every once in a while they would repeat lines of dialogues to each other, and I think that's what was going on. They would just, like, repeat random dialogue. And so, like, they have the scene where Renee Zellweger is confronting Greg Kinnear about cheating on her, and says, like, okay, well, you have a choice. You can leave and go with this woman, or you can try and work it out here. And he says, I choose you. And then, I choose you.
I heard that too.
Like, all right. I guess we're going to get this through the whole thing.
I mean, it works out in case we were to fall asleep in the movie.
Yeah. There were some times where I felt like it.
Who doesn't think, oh dear, once the Klan shows up? And then...
Can I say this, though? Like, I don't think his acting was bad at all.
No, honestly...
I thought there were genuinely some really great moments from his performance, regardless of the movie or not. No,
totally. Like, there are good performances in this movie, because there are great and award-winning or nominated actors in this. Like, Greg Kinnear is great. Jaimin Hunsu is kind of given one, maybe not one tone, but one kind of manner of speaking through it. But he is a great actor, so when he has to show tears, he certainly does. Renee Zellweger is great, even though, and this is bad, there were times I kept forgetting it was Renee Zellweger on screen.
I didn't recognize her. Like, I know people brought it up before that, like, I don't know, like, she doesn't look like Renee Zellweger anymore. No one really knows why. But
she had, I think she might have had some work done, like, on her eyes to make her eyes a little bit bigger.
Maybe. I could see it after a while. I just didn't really realize it was her for a bit, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And plus she had, like, the brown hair, and I'm used to the blonde as well.
Oh, yeah. Can we talk about that Klan flashback real quick? Because it's this... There's a flashback in the movie, and it's Jaimin Hunsu goes, I'm gonna tell you a story about why I don't like white people. And then it flashes back to Jaimin Hunsu as a kid who was friends with a white kid and their children at this point. And this was such a scene where they happen upon the white kid's dad's barn that has a bunch of Klan stuff in it. I've never seen anything like this in a movie where the white kid goes, "It'll be fun, let's play Klan!" And then they both dress up as Klansmen and have a sword fight with wooden crosses until they're chased out by the old racist mother who comes in there and chases them out. And then the black kid is running through there still in a Klan robe. They might as well have been playing like Dukes of Hazzard hijinks music when this was going on. It was crazy. And then it's like not long after this that Renee Zellweger is like, now the true horror, I gotta wake up some teenagers.
Well, no, that was after he admitted to killing someone.
Oh, right. Okay. He admitted to killing someone.
That was at the art museum when he told that story.
Right.
But
in the Klan art gallery.
He ends up going to a plantation, and then he runs away from the plantation and ends up in town somewhere, the city, and he tries to rob a bus, so he ends up going to jail or like some prison chain gang for like 10 years. And he ends up killing someone in the prison who I guess is trying to attack him. I'm not really entirely sure, but he had to defend himself. And he tells them that, and he's really tearful about it and saying like, you know, like, I want you to know who I am since you trusted me in your house. And then that's when she says like, I gotta wake up some teenagers. Wish me luck.
God damn, fuck this movie.
Yeah, I was thinking too at that funeral, like how huge there was like this huge display of flowers and this
my
coffin.
God!
I'm thinking like, you know, all those homeless people probably could have used that money.
Man, I was thinking that too. I was thinking that throughout most of this movie, but especially in that where it looks like her casket is decorated just with the Garden of Eden, and then they got a homeless guy giving the eulogy next to this shit. Like, I know exactly what this eulogy would be. It would be him standing up there going, "Fuck y'all," and leaving.
Well, I mean, but I don't know. The problem I have with critiquing a lot of this is I don't know how much of it really happened.
I'm in the same boat as you are.
Because, like, there are certain things that I can definitely tell. I'm like, okay, that's movie bullshit. But a lot of things I'm like, I don't know. Like, I can't really poo-poo it because I don't know if it happened or not. I'm
trying not to get too mad at a lot of things about it because at the end of the day, it is this movie about this guy and whose wife dies later, and him and the Denver character do have this friendship, and they've certainly done a lot. It appears, at least, they've done a lot over time to certainly help out a lot of the homeless. So every critique I have about this movie is more so just about the movie. Like, the tone that it has, the condescending nature of it.
For sure.
You could do a movie about this situation without making it so goddamn fucking condescending. Like, Jared and I went to go see that All Saints movie a couple of months ago, and it wasn't great. I mean, it was certainly corny, and it looked like a TV movie, but it did have a lot of heart, and it did have a good message. I never really sat there thinking like, God damn, will this movie just for 5 seconds stop trying to feel so fucking superior towards the homeless or whatever? Like, no, I didn't feel that way about that movie at all. That movie did it fine. It was passable enough. This one is, like I said, it's just not good. It really is. I don't know. I really thought this was a pretty fucking terrible movie.
Until it got to the parts with Denver, outside of him just like smashing things with a bat and walking away and being silent. A lot of it was just really dry and boring. Like a lot of it was like looking at art, a couple of yuppies selling art and then going through their marital problems or whatever, and then like people spouting off cliches, and it just felt like nothing. And there was a lot of it that didn't seem to have a soundtrack to it in the beginning too, which felt like it was unfinished. And I was hoping it wouldn't be the whole movie, and it wasn't.
No.
But once he got in there, I mean, like, there is the condescending nature of it, of course, but he was a more interesting character than they were.
Yeah, honestly, they should have just made a movie about him.
Yeah,
they should have just made
I was genuinely just interested in his life. Because, like, regardless of how the flashbacks turned out, I mean, it was an interesting story, and it was way more interesting than, like, art dealer marital problems.
Yeah, it's like it'll show Jaimon Hunsu having this horrible shit really happening to him, and then this is a movie where simultaneously it opens up with Greg Kinnear saying something like oh, is it even worth having $1 million or something like that? Like, oh, suck my dick. And then at the end, when Renee, I hope to God this didn't happen in real life. Like at the end where Renee Zellweger is talking to her kids and going like, now remember, if your dad chooses another wife, it's okay. And then Greg Kinnear comes in and she says to him like, that even includes the woman you had an affair with. And I'm sitting there going like, that feels like a line that's written by the husband. I don't know. Like,
yeah, everyone she's like too sweet about everything too quickly. Like when she finds out about the affair, she has like, I think it's after that prophetic dream, I'm not sure. But she's sleeping in bed, and then she wakes up and then wakes him up, and he's sleeping on the couch, and she asks him to tell her if he's hidden anything else, and then he says that he sold the painting that he gave her as a gift and stuff like that. And she asks for the woman's number and calls her up.
Yeah.
And then says, like, I just want you to know that I don't blame you, and like, basically, like, hopefully we can find that love again, and if we do, then he won't come back to you. Like, she was so sweet about all of it. And I'm like, that's very level-headed to be, like, immediately after you find out about your husband cheating on you.
Yeah, and then...
there was no, like, build-up to that, either, to be like, okay, this is her mindset here, why she switched into being forgiving about it.
And at the end, and then in that later on, too, she says to him, like, it's a good thing that affair happened, otherwise we wouldn't have gotten to this point. I'm like, you were working at the homeless shelter way prior to that. Like, it took your husband cheating on you to, like, drag him there? I don't know. Like, I don't know. This is just a kind of a nasty little movie. I really didn't like this shit. At all.
It definitely... I think it was hurt because it was based on a story from the perspective of Ron Hall. And it felt a little bit skewed by that perspective.
Yeah.
When it is an interesting story, but it does feel a lot of it was very sugar-coated. Even though he did some pretty bad things.
It's okay, though, because everyone loves Greg Kinnear.
Yeah, I mean, he was charismatic, but it's just because of him.
Any final thoughts about the movie?
I wasn't as offended by it as you, but it wasn't good. Like, I mean, it's inspiration porn kind of stuff.
Sure. I mean, I wasn't sitting there really, like, offended by this movie or anything like that. I've seen Pure Flix movies that are far more hateful than this. I don't think this movie is hateful, really. Like, I think it's well-intentioned. It's not God's Not Dead or anything like that. It's not that. It's just, like I said, it's just a condescending little movie. Like, and I'm certainly gonna forget about it. I don't know if this will end up on my list of the worst of the year, because I see a lot of bad fucking movies. But I so would not recommend this. Like, it's not one of the worst Pure Flix movies, but if you're gonna set out to watch a Pure Flix movie, even in a case like this where they just kind of released it, it's not an in-house Pure Flix movie, if you're gonna set out and watch one, just cut to the chase and watch one of the offensive ones, because clearly, if you're gonna watch one out of curiosity, that's what you want. You want to see one that's just shockingly bad, like God's Not Dead. Not a thing like this that's just boring. And
I feel like if you would want to see this story, if you were inspired by these particular people in real life, I wouldn't trust this version of it. Like, there's probably other sources that you can read about what happened or this guy's life, Denver, because, I mean, they went on tour about it, telling the story.
Yeah.
And, like, it said, at least, that they've been helping homeless people ever since then. So, they're still out there doing the work, but I don't really trust this to tell a great version of events.
Read a Wikipedia article on the whole thing. I don't know. So yeah, anyway, real quick, yeah, we're back to doing this live because I still had to like submit like a pre-recorded video for a review, so I'm like, okay, well, might as well just go back. I was gonna wait a week to start doing a week or two to start doing live stuff again, but I'm like, all right, well, if I still have to submit videos for a review, then might as well do it live, because at least then it's kind of taken care of right away instead of waiting around for it to sort of happen with the please submit this for monetization review, which did happen to the Medea one, but it was like 2 days later. I'm like, okay, if it's live, at least it's like that. But tomorrow Sarah and I are going to see The Snowman. Which is, I think, the only reason why I didn't say to you, like, you want to go see The Snowman, because both Sarah and I have been talking about that movie for a long time. Like, we should definitely go see The Snowman. So, Pure Flicks movie it is. Alright, thanks a bunch, everyone in the chat. We'll see you next time.
Bye.